welcome to the Hub podcast, chat, discussion. I don't think we have an official name for this yet.
It's called the
Just
Hub,
the
right?
Hub.
It's just
Yeah, but
the
I mean,
Hub
the podcast
podcast.
bit of the Hub.
It's just the Hub podcast, right?
Whatever you say. Okay, well, it's been a while. We've both been very sick.
Yes. So what happened was, I fell ill for about 4 weeks. Like, I was out. I was asleep almost every day for 4 weeks. So I've basically lost a month of my life to that. And then we've moved house, and that took a lot longer than it should have done. And then another guy, the other person hosting this podcast, he got COVID again. So
The other guy.
the other guy.
Yes. I got COVID and then I got sick. And then I started my master's degree again.
It was funny though, because
busy.
we started recording this episode 2 weeks ago, and you and I could tell.
Half ago.
Yeah, I could tell you were not well, and then like the next day, because we didn't finish the whole episode. The next day, I can't remember if you sent a photo, or if you just sent me a message going, "I got COVID." I was like, "Yeah."
Oh,
I can't remember if you sent me
time
a photo of the
trying
results.
to turn my phone off while I was trying to record this because I had notes on my phone, and it was like my phone decided it's one of those note apps that has adverts for some reason. I'm too stubborn to change my note app.
Oh, the iPhone just has a Notes app on it, so I just use that one.
Yeah, Android does too, but I keep still using the same note app that I downloaded back when Android didn't really have a dedicated note app.
Oh dear.
I'm weird about that, but okay. I guess in today's episode, there's a few topics. I was kind of put in charge to kind of come up with the topics, and well, there's been
it's your week
popularity
hosting.
surge. There's been a popularity surge in Tolkien at the moment because of the Rings of Power. But I don't want to discuss that show because you haven't finished it yet.
I've watched
thought-
2 episodes.
But we can get to that later. I wanted to kind of discuss the original Tolkien work. And that's
Oh,
The Hobbit.
so The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
Also The Hobbit.
Don't bring up Silmarillion, because I don't remember it very well. I'd read it like over 10 years ago, and even at that time, I didn't understand it very well.
Well, I think we both have an affinity for The Hobbit. I mean, you made an edit of the film trilogy, based
Yes.
more so on the book. You did a more of a...
So I
There's been a
did.
few projects like that.
I spent 2 years of my life editing the original the Hobbit movies into one film, and made it more so like the book. I did a lot because I did a lot of visual editing as well, so changing the color coding, the saturation
I've
of
seen it.
colors, because I don't like how overexposed the colors and the lighting is of the original films. It looks so artificial, but yeah, I spent a lot of time making that. I worked alongside the book, so I know that book like the back of my hand to make that as good as I could. I wish I could publish it. I wish I could put it on YouTube.
But no copyright.
Yeah, I
Shame
know.
that fan studies.
I know a lot of people put like their Star Wars edits up on YouTube, and some reason they haven't been taken down. But it's Warner Brothers are really nasty when it comes to their copyright protection on YouTube. They're the one company you don't mess with.
I think they are more aggressive because it's like anything. Like I posted anything when you post anything from Warner Brothers anime, you can get demonetized.
Yeah, like you're a fan of JoJo's, and
Warner Brothers owns it.
And also, I've made loads of Harry Potter videos in my time. Loads of them are still up on YouTube, but the majority of them are taken down because Warner Brothers doesn't like people sharing their stuff, even if it comes under fair use. They're like the Nintendo of the film industry.
Oh my god, you'd think that'd be Disney.
Disney's really good. Disney's really good with this stuff.
I guess it's because it's like they have so many fans, so it's like that kind of balance of not wanting to piss the fans off.
I think it's also because Disney knows that this is a source of revenue. They can make a copyright claim on it and leech money off of it. But I say leech. It is their work which people are altering under fair use. So I don't know if it would count as leeching. But you know, they're making money off other people's renditions of their work. I don't think they'd let a fan edit stay up though.
No, but that's beside the point. We want to discuss The Hobbit, which is more so the book, I think. And we could discuss the movies a bit and where I think they go a bit wrong and sometimes a bit right, but I think it's more so the book. And my main thing, because I'm going through it again. It's like my third time going through it.
Oh, blimey. Nice.
I just think it's how it's aged like very well.
It's
I
such a
don't
good
think it's
book.
aged. Yeah, I mean it was the highest selling book of all time. I think
One of
fiction.
the highest selling.
I
I
think it
know
is the
The
highest.
Lord of the
Let
Rings
me
was the
check.
second highest selling book series of the last century after the Bible. So it's definitely up there. I know 50 Shades of Grey is the highest selling book of all time. It was Harry Potter, but 50 Shades took off after that. I don't think anything's taken over 50 Shades after that. I can check that one.
I
Best?
thought The Hobbit was the highest selling book of all time. Maybe
No,
back in its age it was.
maybe before Lord of the Rings. The best selling books: A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, The Little Princess by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and then there were none, A Dream of a Red Chamber, and followed by that is The Hobbit. So The Hobbit is one, two, seven, the seventh highest book.
It deserves it because it's incredibly aged like fine wine.
Within the top, it's within the top 10.
It's aged like fine wine. I can go through it now and it hasn't aged a
It's
day. The dialogue is
it sold
punchy. The
100.
stories.
It sold 100 million copies. So that's
It's a lot.
that's a lot. Harry Potter and Philosopher's Stone has 120 million, and above that, The Little Prince has 200 million copies sold. So that's like 80 million more the next book up.
It's but it's a good reason. It's written very well. It's aged like fine wine. It's perfect. Everything
Oh,
about
it's
it's
a
perfect,
really lovely book.
down to the minute details. But we're not. There's a reason behind it. I think. I think going through it now, it's like it's about courage and overcoming sort of. I think a lot of uneasiness of what younger people feel like.
It's a
It is quite
really
scary.
nice children's book. I think the best way to describe it is it's a very nice children's book.
Mm.
Because it's nothing profound, it's nothing overly complex. It's a very simple story, which is easy to understand, but it's still captivating. It's very relatable because the journey isn't just about the journey is sort of like a metaphor for different stages you go through to becoming more brave, finding your courage. It's not,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's about kind of finding courage in the back of the heel because, like, throughout the book, Bilbo's always doubted himself, and then he does something and he proves why he's there. And Gandalf even says when Gandalf has to go, he's like, "Why are you guys worrying? You've got Bilbo."
Yeah,
He's like, "Why are
a
you
good
worried about me
examples would
going?"
be like with the spiders, it's overcoming fear. With the elves imprisoning the dwarves, that's finding his wits. It's different stages in becoming brave.
Yeah, it's about
My
I think
artistic
it's just
brain is at work here.
I don't think it's just about solely just bravery as well. It's about cunningness, wit. It's about
Yeah,
seeing
yeah, but
things from a different angle.
these are all factors that make up bravery.
Mm, yes,
Yeah,
I guess that
bravery.
makes sense. Yes.
You don't just become brave out of still not learning to be not fearful of things.
I
So
think it's like Bilbo's. I think it's like Bilbo's like most people. What are people's favorite character? Even more so than even people like Frodo, because Bilbo's kind of the mix of Frodo and Sam. He's kind of got Sam's kind of heartiness, and he's
yeah,
also got a mix of Frodo's sort of cunning intelligence. So he's like he. I think for me, he's my favorite Hobbit. One of my favorite characters, even like even compared to things like Feanor, the Greatest Elf.
I
One of
think
the best
that
characters
Bilbo is
Tolkien
my
writes.
favorite Hobbit. I don't get me wrong, I still love Sam, Frodo, Merry, Pippin, but Bilbo, I like that the story's simpler, and I like that it's his small journey. I say small
Mm.
journey. I mean, there is like a dragon in it, and giant spiders, and goblins. Like it's not giant mountains, and yeah, it's something. It's special.
It's weird because it's like not weird per se, but it's like there's a reason why it's called The Unexpected Journey. The first film was dubbed that, The Unexpected Journey. It is a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey novel.
And it's a
And I think it's
very
one of the best
unexpected
ever
one.
written.
He wasn't expecting to go on the journey.
He just wanted to live in his little hobbit home like all of us.
Yes. But one thing, because of course you said you wanted to talk about the book as well, I think one thing I wanted to mention was how a lot of the things in the book are not made descriptively very clear, but in the films they have to adapt these things into being real. So take the mountain trolls, mountain giant things. I can't remember exactly what they were called. In the book, they just mentioned that they pass some giant trolls in the mountains or something, stone giants. That's it, stone giants. But in the films, they literally made giants out of stone. Now, that may have been what Tolkien meant, but he may have also just meant giants, like tall people that live in the stone, that live in rocky mountains. That's the thing. It's like, because it's left so ambiguous, everyone's interpretation would come away differently, and then when it comes to the film, they have to make it literal, like the Balrog, for example. You mentioned this to me before.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of
yeah.
It's very a lot of the Peter Jackson trilogy takes things very literally, and I think its biggest issue is it's because it's a prequel to Lord of the Rings, whereas The Hobbit was never designed to be that. It was always designed to be its own story first. Obviously, there was I'm going through, when you read The Hobbit now, it's the revision, so the post Lord of the Rings revision.
In the original version, Gollum gave Bilbo the ring after winning the what's the
contest of riddles.
In the revision that Tolkien did, Bilbo steals it and he becomes a thief.
Yeah. And it's completely rewritten. Like, it's written where he says "my precious," and he's doing the Gollum mannerisms. I think that's fine. I think that was fine, because it was obvious that Tolkien, after those many decades after The Hobbit came out and he did Lord of the Rings, a lot of his ideas changed. Like, he came up with so many different ideas, so his lore changed. I think there's even a mention of Valinor, and the different elf types. Like, I was going through the chapter today, and he was going about the wood elves and how they're different to the Western elves, and that comes from the Silmarillion. So it's like he had these ideas and he did revise the Hobbit, but I think it works because that's just a revision of the text, but not forcing in the prequel element, in the sense of, you have the Gollum bit with the precious, but it's like it's not too heavily highlighted, whereas the issue with Jackson's movie is it tries to add in the extra details that were happening at the time. So you have Gandalf and his exploration of Sauron and the Necromancer, and it's like, in the book, that's just passively not even really mentioned. It's more in the expanded material, but it's like, no, the movie had to make it a plot because they had to make 3 films. And it's a shame, because in the book, it's like, that stuff isn't a main concern. The main issue is the journey. Like, the hardest thing is when they go through Mirkwood.
Yes.
That is like one of the hardest situations.
I love the book version of that, and I felt that the film version was so poorly done. Because in the film version, they're just like, oh, the path's gone. But in the book, if I remember rightly, didn't they see what appeared to be treasure or something in the distance, and they all purposely left the path to get to the treasure or something? Is that right?
Yeah, they go.
I remember. Yes,
they go off the path, and then they go and get into the spiders. Which in the book, the spiders are like and it really highlights one thing as well. The spider chapter is how important song is to the book.
Yeah, I noticed that.
No, Bilbo was singing to the spiders. He was.
He sang to spiders. All right.
Yeah, he sang to them. He was like made up a song on the spot. And there's a lot of songs in Hobbit. I mean. And many people would say that's because it's obviously it's more of a kid's book, but to me, it's like song is a very important part of Anglo, because obviously Tolkien's world is based on Anglo-Saxon Norse mythology and culture and history. So song was very important in carrying messages, themes, tell people, because people couldn't write, so they carried over stories.
I mean, there was a character in The Hobbit called Bard. Yes. In the film, he wasn't even a bard. I hate that in the film he's basically just like a fisherman who doesn't sing. He's a bard. Why isn't he singing? Why isn't he telling folk songs? What is wrong with this bard?
And I think it comes from the fact that obviously the book is maybe read to your kids at night. You know, it's maybe read to your kids.
Like one chapter a night sort of thing.
Yeah, I can tell that straight away because every chapter kind of has.
That's how I first experienced it when I was really
little.
I'm
going through it right now again. Yeah. I think it's perfect though, because I don't think it is for kids exactly, because it is written for adults to read still, so it's a very great story.
No. It is Lord of the Hobbit was written as a kid's book. Fantasy stories when The Hobbit came out was just for kids. Lord of the Rings changed that. Lord of the Rings was the fantasy novel for adults, and then George R. R. Martin came along and go, this isn't for adults, it's not got sex in it. How dare it not have sex in it? I want boobies, I want dicks in my Lord of the Rings, and guess what? When characters die, they die for real.
Though I disagree with that, because I do think Martin's more humble than that. Like, he's got a lot of respect for Tolkien, even though some of his Tolkien opinions I do disagree with, because I don't think he gets what Tolkien writes very humbly. And one of my points about The Hobbit is, it's like, even though obviously it is a kid's book, I'll still say agreeing it is a kid's book, it's still written with there's a seriousness to it. Like, you feel the weight of every issue they face, like a very heavy weight, and it's quite serious in that aspect. Like,
I felt, because I did watch the first season of Game of Thrones, and it felt like a poorly done critics were poorly done critic of the Lord of the Rings remake of the Lord of the Rings. It's like it's like a critic who thought he understood what Lord of the Rings was, but didn't try to remake Lord of the Rings because he thought it wasn't very good, because it wasn't to his liking.
My disagreement, and I disagree with that, because I don't think it is trying to be like Lord of the Rings. It uses elements of it because of inspiration, but I think what Martin was trying to do was trying to make a fantasy that's more inspired by real history. But that's beside the point. The Hobbit is, in my opinion, is one of the ultimate fantasy stories. It has wizards, it has dragons, it's what's inspired everything. And why Hobbit, I don't think it's...
The Hobbit is what inspired the party in RPGs. You know, when you play an RPG game, you have a wizard, you have a thief. The thief, by the way, is Bilbo. You got the dwarf, you got the elf. The Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, etc. They inspired the idea of having a party made up of different types of, I guess not people, creatures, because dwarves and elves aren't humans. So they end up with different types of people and creatures to go on an adventure together, and I love that, because it's opened so many doors to many different games and tabletop RPGs. It's great.
Yeah, it's you could feel why it's so inspirational. It's like I think what makes it, in my opinion, so penultimate, even when you compare it to the Lord of the Rings, is I think because it's such a tight story. Like, it's not a big, massive, expansive story. It's got the set narrative, and all these different events happen within the framework of the narrative. So it's a very basic book in that sense. But I think what makes it incredible is because it's just how it's written. It's very character focused. Bilbo is one of the greatest fantasy characters of all time, because we see his journey from being a hobbit who's kind of lazy and doesn't really want adventures and very unsure of himself, unsure of others. I mean, literally, he gets so angry he passes out. Like, he is meant to represent the average kind of person. Me too. He just wants to stay in his hobbit hole and eat bread and butter all day and not care about the world. But he gets kind of like, he has to go on this adventure, and at the end of it all, when there's all gold and he's given, a chance to have so much, he takes it. But it's like, to him, all he wanted was home. That's it.
I remember it, I think it was Fellowship, but Gandalf said that some of the stuff that Bilbo took home with him was, in financial terms, more valuable than the entirety of the Shire. I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah, people start fighting over his treasure.
Oh, yes, as well. When he in the film when he came back and his house was being sold, all the stuff in his house was being bidded off. That was so funny. Like there were things in the film I did like, and some liberties they took with it I didn't dislike. Take Azog for example. In the first one, The Unexpected Journey, I thought the addition of Azog was a good idea.
Yeah, make more of a kind of part one villain because obviously we weren't going to get to Smaug yet.
But my problem with it was that in the second film we didn't have much of Azog, but instead we got like a video game mid boss character introduced. He literally had like an entrance, like a video game villain who you're about to fight, and he just had it was terrible. And then the last one, there was the Azog had no connection to Bilbo, Smaug, the Mountain. It was literally just Thorin and Azog's feud, and Thorin like became the main character in the third film. When the fight was going on and stuff, I just felt that Bilbo was put to the side, and I was like, this isn't. I don't feel like I'm watching The Hobbit. I feel like I'm watching Lord of the Rings.
That's what the films are trying to be, though. That's the issue. They weren't their own feeling.
But what I wanted to say about Game of Thrones, though, is that George R. R. Martin has spoken a lot about he didn't like how Tolkien built his world with things. He didn't explain how the politics work, how the class system worked, and George R. R. Martin thought that he needed to fix that, and in his own work. And I'm just like, but the Lord of the Rings is not the focus of Lord of the Rings is not these elements of world building. World building in Tolkien's world is the sort of food people would eat, the culture around their songs, and how their weapons are made, how their buildings look, the architecture. It's not focused so much on the political side and social side of their of the world, I guess.
Yeah. It's not the important factor. It's like Tolkien's work is, but Tolkien's work is mythology. I think Martin's work is meant to be written like history. It's very different approaches. Like
no. You're reading Lord of the Rings. You know that it's written like it's a history journal, like someone's account. Like Frodo is accounting his journey into across Middle Earth.
No, I meant more lore-wise. Sorry, more like the lore and the way that it is structured more like a mythology. Tolkien's lore is, though it's written like it's based on a mythological element, whereas Martin's work has family trees and events and stories.
Have you read Lord of the Rings?
There's family trees the main narrative,
left and right.
Yes, but I meant. The way Lord of the Rings is written is like mythology. You go through, when you go through, not the actual main, as in the main three books. They are a novel series. They are written like standard narratives novels. But I meant the entire work of Tolkien's Legendarium is mythological. Like the Silmarillion is written like a mythology history book. It's like accounts of different little stories, and they're written in such grand, like it's like, it's explained that Eru created the world with song, and it's like, is that a literal implication of song, or is it more like a, mystical idea of how he describes the magic of the world, like song? So it's very cool how he writes that kind of thing. But it's like Tolkien's work isn't always so literal. It's like when Gandalf says "Fly, you fools," it's like fly means to go fast, but everyone interprets it as so he was trying to tell them to use the eagles.
No. That's just people who don't understand older English. Because when someone tells you to fly in old English, that means just run. That would be a modern misinterpretation. At the time it would have come out, that would not have been a misinterpretation.
I see.
Modern,
but most people...
it's literally the books came out over half a century ago, and language changes.
Yeah, but that's how Tolkien writes his work, though.
Yeah,
it is written. It's like poetry. It's like poetry. It rhymes. It is like poetry, and he uses songs a lot. Like in Lord of the Rings, there's poems and songs used to tell different stories and different feelings of characters. Like it's like It's very beautiful how he writes things, and I think that's one of the
Yes,
benefits the Hobbit has. When you go through the Hobbit, it's written quite beautifully. It's like they use words like you won't see any creatures in there of any humble nature. Well, that's a very weird way to describe things that are good, but it's quite an old-fashioned way of describing things that are like good for you, or you can eat. Like he goes, you won't find anything humble to eat. Humble, just like not used today. Many people would say, oh, you wouldn't find anything good for you to eat, but it's just that use of the word humble. It's very unique, and it
yeah.
makes going through it very unique for me. And I love how Tolkien writes environments, and you can feel kind of like the weight of like a bad situation when they're climbing a mountain, and you can feel how heavy it is. Or when they're in the forest, you can feel how you know
I love that
claustrophobic it is.
Legolas's footsteps were so light that he could stay atop the snow when everyone else had to like weave through the snow, had to shove it away through. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
I think
found
the movie even shows that. It doesn't
yeah, I
emphasize,
think it
but I think you
does.
can see it in the movies.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
You're right. I feel like I do like how Tolkien writes his work. I do like that. I think I mentioned to you that this. I think I mentioned this to you before, but when it mentions the fell beasts, the creatures that the ring wraiths ride in from once their horses are unfortunately killed. Once their horses are killed, they start riding the fell beasts, and I don't know if they're described as fell beasts in the book. Are they?
They're just described as winged foul creatures. They're not really
Winged fell
given.
creatures. That's okay. So it never describes what these look like, and a lot
You
of
can hear some kids in the
artwork.
background of your microphone.
Yeah, that's because I'm by the
Not
window.
interrupting the podcast or anything. It's just funny to me. It's
I
like
can-
we're
yes.
saying foul beast and you hear kids.
But yeah, I what was I say? Yeah, I noticed that a lot of artwork from before the films came out had these creatures just look like black horses with red eyes and wings, and that's because because I didn't click with me when reading, but after I saw the artwork, I noticed, oh yeah, because it didn't describe what these looked like. In my mind, I just had the beast from the films in my mind, but before then, people didn't think of wyverns. They thought of dark horses or some other kind of dark creature which has wings. Maybe they were flying on ravens, or who knew? Who knows? It's very interesting.
It's interesting when you see artwork of pre-Jackson films, because it's like you see the original Hobbit artwork, and the dwarves are drawn because they're described in colourful costumes, so they're drawn like kind of like Snow White dwarves, if that makes sense, like
Yeah.
greens and blues. Yet for me, it's like I do think there is that outdated sensibility to some of the older art. It's humbled and it's quite novel, but for me, it's like when I was going through the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, I go for like a mix of the two, this kind of classical style, like because obviously Tolkien's idea is more of an Anglo look to the world. It's not medieval; it's Anglo, so it's pre-medieval. That's his idea of. So like no one wears plate armor in the Lord of the Rings, in his version of Lord of the Rings. Yet the Jackson films, everyone's wearing quite plate armor.
Yeah, like
quite
their medieval
modern-esque
knights.
chainmail. When it was more written like an Anglo-Saxon kind of thing. Obviously, the fantastical idea to
Wait
it,
a minute,
still
but
Anglo.
Bilbo was gifted chainmail by Thorin.
No, they have chainmail. They have chainmail because they describe, but it's like more so the men of the world don't have like what the elves kind of have, and the dwarves kind of have for these kind of like mystical things. But it's like I didn't mean chainmail, but not like in the films they kind of wear like more kind of modern looking costumes, if that makes sense. Whereas
I will say that a lot of it looks very clean.
kind of thing.
A lot of it looks very clean. And back in our life, in our world history, the armor wasn't that finely made. For the men, I won't critique the elves because they're a different species, and obviously they probably have different methods of crafting. But when it comes to the human crafting of their weapons and their costumes, like the knight armor. If you go, I don't know if you ever have, but if you go to somewhere like a museum or something and look at the actual armor people wore and the weapons they wore, they are not so perfectly cut clean. They were messy. Like a sword was very rarely perfectly straight. It would have the armor is never like chrome clean, and it never and even just from the molding, it'll have like dents in it from imperfect molding. It's quite interesting when you watch something like Lord of the Rings and everyone's wearing bright shiny armor.
I think for me the biggest issue when it came to like the Hobbit trilogy as well was I do think it tried to take itself too seriously, especially with like Thorin having this kind of like edgy kind of Lord Luke. I don't think he ever came across as kind of kingly to me, because in the book there's many a times he is the inspiring leader, whereas in the movie
Thorin was just Aragorn.
They did go for the Aragorn one. It's why so many people simp for him in terms of the, he has a lot of simps for him.
And also,
that's fine, but it doesn't really work for what Tolkien was intending. He's meant to be a noble, kingly man.
Yeah.
It's like Aragorn left that Strider behind and accepted to become king. It's like Thorin was quite accepting of the leader. He was inspiring. Yeah, in the movie, it seems like he's more troubled and
yeah,
it doesn't come across as kingly. I don't think it's the actor's fault, because the actor could have looked it.
I find that also I don't like how Thorin, Fili, and Keely look in the film, because the actors are very good looking. It's what's called adaptational attractiveness, and
yeah,
I'm not really a fan of it.
And again, Tolkien did say though that sometimes the aesthetical the aesthetical choice sometimes outweighs a moral choice. So sometimes he would do things for the aesthetic reason over a deeper meaning. So, but then again, it's like, I do think it detracts because they tried to do the romance arc, and it's like, why a romance arc?
Oh, because it sells books. It sells films. Sorry, I don't know. I said books. It sells films. Romance sells films.
But if there's one thing I do love about the films, they still have the heart of adventure. I can't lie when Bilbo's like, I'm off on an adventure. Maybe he's a bit too willing to go on the adventure, because in the book he's like in a rush because he overslept, and Gandalf's like, what the hell are you doing? Go. And in the movie he's like, I'm on an adventure, and he's like really
What do you think of Martin Freeman's casting as Bilbo?
I think he's perfect. I just wish the Bilbo was a little better.
I think that he's a really good choice of actor, but I wish that Martin Freeman was more interested in the roles he was doing, because he
does kind of play that same kind of quick, witty man.
It's not just that. It's that Martin Freeman displays that he has a lot of talent, but he's very good at acting, but he isn't interested in putting the work in. He's not performing to 110%, and I don't think he wants to. I think he's aware of that, and he doesn't want to do 110%.
Yeah, I still think he's good. I still think he does a good job. I'm still glad Ian McKellen took the role. Really
Ian
good
McKellen's
in the movie.
fantastic. Fantastic.
As always. It's funny because
into the mines.
There's something kind of interesting in the Hobbit book. It's like
Bilbo,
Gandalf is written.
The ring is still in your pocket.
Yes, Gandalf is written more like an actual old man gnome, like a magical old man. Like the implication that he's a Maiar didn't come to probably Tolkien at this point. He didn't probably have that idea. So he is like, you can tell Gandalf is written more like a man, if that makes sense. Like more of a human.
Yeah.
Like he has to he gets super tired and has to eat. And it's funny because in the book he's like, I need to go. I have pressing business. I've already wasted time on you. And my favorite thing is how upset and sad the dwarves are, because it's like, it is about, the idea of parental. And I think the book is maybe inspiring for young kids. Your parents won't always be there, but it's like, you've got to believe in yourself. Like Bilbo has courage. And I think like in my first read through The Hobbit, I thought that Bilbo took on the parental leader role. I don't think I believe that anymore. He didn't become the leader of the group, but he did become. He was one of the only ones who sort of grew after being.
It's a more humbling story than that, because a lot of stories, even ones like Harry Potter's the leader of the group, but a character Bilbo, Tolkien's trying to tell the reader that you don't have to be the leader to be a good one in your group. You don't have there's no need to strive for greatness. Just be a good guy. Just be a good guy who does the right things, and that's what he was trying to push. He wasn't trying to push the whole, be the best, be overachieve. There's no need for that.
Yeah, it's if I would say that one of my favorite aspects as well is like Gandalf's always like the dwarves always like, oh, Bilbo, he's not a very good burger. Oh, why we even got Bilbo with us? And Gandalf's like, you'd be thankful that he was here if you can just trust me. And Gandalf doesn't want to trust him, and it's like it plays out in the end. I do like how in the movie Gandalf gives a good explanation because Galadriel goes, why the halfling?
Just because I'm afraid.
Yeah, Bilbo has courage despite being probably the one with the most fear, yet has the most courage.
I feel like that part was sort of tacked on for the film though. And it was just to give Gandalf some weight to show that he's frightened too. But I doubt that was the intention. I think it's because Gandalf is wise and he understood, and Gandalf understood that if they wanted to take the mountain back, they would need somebody like Bilbo, who
they needed, because it's described a lot of little, like, it's the thing about Bilbo is in the book a lot of situations where Bilbo has like a skill that hasn't been explained yet. And the way it's written, it goes, and Bilbo, once was a great rock thrower, and this skill came in handy right now. And people would say, "Oh, that's just bringing up something, out of the blue." But it's like, no, people have random skills on them. People have random little things that become useful, and it's like that's what Tolkien's trying to explain. He's like, everyone has little special skills on them.
These people, the dwarves are nerfing themselves by not giving Bilbo the right jobs to do, and Bilbo then does the right job anyway, and he helps them out.
It's like he knows he knows the worst name to call a spider. Attica, he goes, Attica.
What does that mean again?
I can't remember what Attica means again, but it's like it's described as being the most hated word for them. So it's like Bilbo knows what their most hated word is. So it's like these little things he knows and he does, and it's like it works out that these little things Bilbo knows, they do build up and they help him, and that's what Tolkien was trying to entail. I think Tolkien was trying to teach younger readers and younger children that, especially people who feel lost. I feel like a lot of younger people feel lost in life. It's like, there is something special. There is, as long as you keep going and using what you have, it's okay to also want home and want the comforts, because I feel like Bilbo longing for home, it's like people have this notion that you need to be always on the move and always doing something. And one thing I think Tolkien's always made perfect, so there's nothing wrong with the humble. There's nothing wrong, because he lived in a city, like he was in Oxford.
You gotta remember that Tolkien was very anti-industrialization as well. That plays into a lot of his Lord of the Rings theming. I've mentioned this to you before, but a lot of people don't realize this, is that a lot of people, when they see Mordor, they think that it's a representation of hell. Now, it is that, but it is also a metaphor for something else, industrialization. So, it's got the smog cloud above it. Now, what causes the smog cloud? Pollution. What causes pollution? Industrialization. If you
happens to the Shire as well,
and then if you go into when you're in Mordor, I love that they do this in the film, especially that in the book as well. It describes that there's the sounding of metal clanging, and in the film they did something really good with the soundtrack, where the music has a banging sound to it, so it goes dun 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 dun, and then boom 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 boom, and that boom boom part, that is representing the metalwork, the repetitive clanging of metal, and that is what happens in industrialized factories where they're manufacturing stuff. That is exactly what Mordor is. It is hell on earth, which is industrialization, and Tolkien hated industrialization.
What do you think happens to the Shire with the scouring of the Shire at the end of the Lord of the Rings novels? It's like the Shire becomes an industrial kind of society, and it's horrible. It's described as no one's happy.
Yes.
They're policed into going to, like,
But that was because Saruman arrived, right?
Saruman, yeah. And it's like, that's Tolkien's last idea of well, if the countryside just becomes a part of the industrial complex, we're going to lose a lot of beauty in the humble nature. For Tolkien, it's like his idea was that we should live humbly
You know, they did
and like
film. They did
basic.
film the whole Saruman taking over the Shire for the films. So you do know they filmed all that, right?
Yeah, they filmed a lot of things. They filmed also Arwen and Aragorn fighting Sauron, I believe.
But they removed the Saruman in the Shire scene and had Saruman killed in the Tower of Isengard. But they decided to use the footage they recorded for when they were enslaving the hobbits in the Shire to when Galadriel shows Frodo a possible future, but in the films that possible future didn't happen, but in the books it did.
Yeah.
I guess you could call it a diversion of the timeline, but the Lord of the Rings expanded universe.
It's it's the scouring the shower is a very cool chapter because I thought I was going to dislike it because I was always brought up on the films. I guess we can entitle this episode just Tolkien discussion because it was originally about the Hobbit, but I think we can just call it a Tolkien discussion in general.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to talk about one without the other because the Tolkien didn't write his books as to be thought of as separate. He wrote it's part of an entire world that he built, and it's hard to talk about one thing without another. I find
Yes.
it's really easy to hop back and forward because it's just one connected story. Where if it was just like a film and it's one in a series, it's easier to talk about just the one because it's normally disconnected or it has ties to the previous one, but it can be looked at on its own. But Tolkien's work is really hard to do that.
Well, I mean, the original Lord of the Rings was meant to be one book, and he has to split into three because of a mixture of post World War II, the scarcity of paper, and to maximize sales as well. But
he also wanted to sell it in A4 size.
Yes. I do hope
that's crazy.
I do hope in future to get some hardbacks of the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings.
I got one. I got my hardback of Silmarillion. It is beautiful.
Because I gone through the audiobooks and they're really incredible. The big shout out to the fan audiobook of the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. They're incredibly well written.
I'm sure there's loads of fan ones, but
there's one. There's like one that's very prominent where he's done all the voice acting, added really great sound editing, like especially with the sound because what audiobooks don't have sound, they're just a guy reading the book.
Well, yeah, that's what they are.
There's the official Lord of the Rings. Yeah, but the one I like the ones with sound effects. They had a massive dramatization.
So you want to listen to it like it's a film, but there's no picture.
Well, you can imagine in your head. Like for me, when I was imagining,
you want audio drama. You don't want an audio book.
I mean, there is the BBC audio drama, but I do like the book aspect because the way Tolkien wrote it, it's very special because even though it's like when the way things have been described, like the way Tolkien was describing Mordor, it's like you feel so heavy. Like it's described as this heavy atmosphere and they're trying to climb Mount Doom and they're literally on all fours trying to climb. And it's like the way it was written is so... I felt in my chest quite heavy.
Didn't Sam put the ring on in Mordor?
He did.
In the book?
He did because he snuck in. Yeah, he's a ring bearer. He put it on.
Wait, Sam was a ring bearer?
He got to live till past 100 and went to Valinor. In the end of the book, it's explained he eventually went to Valinor because he outlived his wife and a few of his kids even.
Can't believe Bilbo lived to be like 111, whatever it was. That was no. He lived like 50 years more than that. He lived to be 1,500. Was it 1,500 years? I can't remember how old he lived to be. I was Bilbo when he died. I'm googling it.
He did. I don't think it's even explained if he died or not. He just went to Valinor. He didn't actually die yet. It's just when he went to Valinor. He wouldn't have lived forever because Valinor kind of speeds up the death of men. It actually speeds up our death. But it's meant to be more of a peaceful death for him than staying around and kind of like... Because he would just slowly die. Whereas in Valinor, he'd at least be given that kind of like peaceful death.
He died... He already celebrated 131st birthday, becoming the oldest hobbit in history. Middle Earth as a mortal, he died in the West while sailing west. So he died while sailing. Okay. So, blimey. So he died while sailing 29th September TA 3021. So he dies in 999 years.
No, not 999. You didn't live that long. But well, Gollum was
No,
around
he
there,
died.
Gollum's
He died. He died at 131.
Okay, yeah. I mean, but yeah, Bilbo was 130 in the book, yeah. Because obviously the Peter
In the
Jackson
book,
films.
in Lord of the Rings Fellowship, he had his 111th birthday, so he lives for 20 more years after that.
Yeah, because in the book it takes them the actual journey takes about I think a whole year, but Gandalf was gone for 17 years, and also it took them like I think a year and a half or something to get back to.
Yeah, and Bill.
So yeah,
Don't
20
forget.
something years.
Wait. What? Wait a minute. But like Galadriel in the Rings of Power, she just like got off the boat and she's just swimming back. What's wrong, Alfie?
You can do.
Sorry.
Your dog interrupted.
And the dog's interrupting. He wants to say hello. Hello.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the show. But yeah, she does because she's stubborn, which is true. Galadriel was stubborn, and people
So what?
kind of
She's just gonna swim
Galadriel.
back for a year?
You see what you if you saw the episode, you see what happens.
I saw that there's like
you mean her
I saw
perception?
that there was like a giant thing in the water that's like killing people.
The raft, yeah. Well, she can swim it. She's an elf. They don't really feel tiredness and hunger as much as humans do, so she could.
For a year?
Theoretically, she could. It wouldn't take her a year to swim back.
But you said it's the sailing to Valinor takes a year.
No. I meant the journey, as in the actual. I was explaining Bilbo's age because he's 111. It takes the Fellowship. It takes Gandalf 17 years when he comes back, and then it takes the Fellowship a year on their actual entire. Like the events of the actual Lord of the Rings take about a year.
Yeah.
Because it starts in like spring. They spend a few months in Rivendell, and they spend a few months in Lothlorien. Like they're always spending a bit of time in places because the movie can't do that. Like in Rivendell, they spend about I think a month in Rivendell, like to rest.
Yeah.
But in the movie, they don't have that. It's like it's over. It's got done and over really quickly. And I feel like Tolkien really enjoyed his moments of rest because they're always written so making me really hungry because they're always like having good feasts and it's like oh my god. The way Tolkien describes food, you can tell he loves it. Like he's a man who lives to eat, which is very much I think me.
Yeah, I just what was I gonna say now?
But I was gonna say that yeah, the Fellowship's journey takes about a year. That's the events of the Lord of the Rings, and Bilbo is 130 at the end of it. Yeah, and it's described. But he was in Rivendell for at least 17 because Frodo didn't see him since the end of his birthday. In the movie, it's like Frodo sees him like a week later in the movie. Yeah. In the books, he hadn't seen Frodo for 17 years.
It's funny in the film because he ages like 20 years in the time that in just a couple of days for in the film is kind of weird because that's like the only indicator that a lot of years probably passed where everything else in the film is like it just happens within a few days at most.
Yeah. Anyway,
what I wanted to ask though, before we move on, what I wanted to ask though is you wanted to talk about Lord of the Rings. Is there Hobbit? Is there anything specifically you wanted to bring up because or have you because I feel like there's something you want to get out but I don't know. I don't feel like you have.
I think for me, it's just I just really want to show my admiration for it because it's such a beautiful story. It's so timeless. It's so full of character, and it makes me feel like
you should write. You should write a love letter to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
I'm an Anglo.
Write the letter and put it in the Hobbit shoe locker.
I will say, obviously, because I'm obviously Anglo, why I live in the countryside. So for me, it hits a lot of like my own experiences. I live in the countryside, and, and it's like when you
no, I get it. I too, and
that doesn't mean the book is obviously
castles
the book is for
left
everyone.
and right where I live. Pretty much everywhere I've lived, there's castles.
Yeah,
and, I love exploring them. climbed castles, ruins. It's all good fun. Um,
The books are written for everyone. I'm not saying that, it's just that I feel like they hit a very special place for me because I live in the countryside, and they're written very much around like British kind of
but
style of
The
history.
Shire is literally based on the town, the county that I grew up in specifically. So I feel very close to it that way because I literally I don't live there anymore. I lived where it was set. I know the area.
I literally live in a shire. My county is the shire. It's like called a shire. I'm not going to reveal it here, but
Yeah, my one was a Shire too, and it was the Shire, the specific one that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is based on with the Shire. So I feel a very strong affinity to it in that sense because it feels very close to home because it literally is my home.
yeah, I feel like that's where the affinity comes from for me. It's like it's such a special.
I don't live in England anymore, so
it's like the Harry Potter. The reason why the Harry Potter films, the actual Harry Potter main films, kind of worked, especially the first couple, was because they had a lot of British filmmakers and British writers. They're very British kind of films.
The director Chris Columbus was not English. The director of the first two films was American.
Yeah, but they had British writers, British filmmakers. So they have like a director isn't the key to everything. Like people, a lot of people are critical of Rings of Power because they aren't using Peter Jackson. Like he hasn't been consulted, but it's like,
well, he also made the Hobbit films, so he may not, he isn't perfect, but
my thing with Peter Jackson is why should he be the be all end all of everything?
He doesn't even want to do Lord of the Rings stuff anymore. He didn't even want to do the Hobbit films because
he was done with it.
Yeah, he was done with it, and
it's a massive amount of pressure that he's been now seen as the authority on Tolkien. He's not. No. Tolkien, he's not related to Tolkien. He just did films that his admiration and fandom of Tolkien allowed for. But it's kind of sad that now he's become the authority of it. That's the sad thing. He's become the authority.
I don't think he should have done those Hobbit films either because he didn't know what to do with them. If you look at
not his fault, precisely.
Not his
really
fault.
Want to do them.
It's not always his fault, and a lot of the
studios.
A lot of the reason those films failed was corporate corporate interfering. Like I said to you before, that the idea was to make two films. One of them being Bilbo's journey, and the next one being Gandalf's journey, what he was doing when he went away. And then more studios, they got like 5 different studios involved in the films. That's squeaking if you can hear it. That's Alfie, my dog, playing with a toy. He
disagrees with you. He's like
angry squeaking in the background. Squeaks angrily. But yeah, they had like 5 different studios and they wanted to extend the films into 3 films so they could have longer action scenes. They literally have the story of 2 films, but because of action they could extend it into 3. That's crazy.
Also scary thing, Harvey Weinstein had a massive role in the Lord of the Rings movies because he helped fund them as well. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings movie is a very messy. There's a reason why Amazon goes in a different direction because those movies are very messy with the rights and who owns the rights, and because then New Line Cinema also tried to. Peter Jackson had to sue New Line Cinema in the end because he wasn't paid, really relatively paid. So a lot of the actors weren't even paid enough. Some of the actors, especially for the Hobbit movie, a lot of the actors didn't get invited to the red carpet.
No, that's true. That is true.
And then they were discussing how they had to be given bottles of wine because there was a lot of revisions, and they had to wait in makeup for hours upon hours. So they get given bottle of wines as thank you. Then that stopped. The studio stopped making expenditures for them.
One of the dwarf actors said that this happened quite a lot when they would get in makeup and in their costumes and they'd be on set and then they'd be waiting for like 2-3 hours and they'd get told, okay, we're doing a different shoot today, everybody go home, we're going to call some different actors in. And it's like, oh, okay. Fuck you. So yeah, you said you wanted to move on to something else, so what's the other item on the agenda?
Okay, other item of the agenda. Well, we've already spent a long time. I haven't got long left, so I guess I'll leave the next topic for the next discussion. I was just basically going to go into the challenge.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're at near the end now, because we spent like about an hour, I think, talking Tolkien.
Yeah, so we did.
So the challenge. Well, last time, if you remember the challenge, you had to watch Blade Runner. I had to watch Spy X Family. And on a technicality, I watched it. I just haven't caught up with it. I watched about 6 episodes,
Okay, so what did
and
you
it
think?
was. It's enjoyable and it is good. I just found myself drifting with it. I think it's because of circumstance right now. Like for me, watching shows has been quite difficult because I got back into my masters again, so it's quite my
No, no, no,
attention's
no,
quite
no. I know what
limited.
it is. I know what it is. You got a girlfriend, and you can't watch anything without your girlfriend now, and she's taking up all your time. Because you're watching Game of Thrones, and if you're watching Game of Thrones, you got time for nothing else.
Moving on.
I'm
How
not,
did
I'm
you
not
find Blade
wrong.
Runner?
I'm not wrong. If you're watching Game of Thrones, you dead ass do not have time to watch anything else.
I'm just making excuses. Leave me alone. No, I've kind of decided I want to wait till it's finished and then binge it. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm. I don't think it's. I don't think
part
Spy X
two
Family is the
is
kind
so
of show.
good.
I don't
So
think.
how
I
far?
don't think it's the kind of show I can wait weekly with. I got to. I got to. Roughly, she gets accepted into the school.
Okay.
I think there was an episode after that where they catch a bad guy, which I thought was really cool. It's like really well, kind of like animated, well structured. You know, it's funny and it's wholesome, but it's like for me, it's like I'd rather kind of binge this.
Okay. I did watch Blade Runner.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
I did watch
because you
Blade
ended up
Runner.
telling me you watched it.
I really enjoyed it. I did think it was very slow. I got that was.
See, I didn't find. I think the first film becomes quicker the more you watch it. Or it becomes more quicker paced the more you watch it.
But I found that the story was very enjoyable. But and as much as I loved the scenery, I think it spent far too long just having camera shots showing you the scenery, and I can tell that these are very technically challenging scenes to pull off, especially at the time that the film was made, and I do appreciate that. But at the same time, I don't want to be looking at a pyramid-looking building for 1.5 minutes with really loud music blasting out my speakers. The audio mix in that film is kind of poor.
I disagree. I feel like it's aged fine.
Okay, but the difference is that you got a makeshift Sonos surround system without timbre matching speakers. I'm the one who's got a proper surround sound system in my in my lounge, and which is Sony, and these speakers are cinema quality, and this film had a really bad audio mix. It was it was not dynamic. It was just loud and really quiet.
See, that's very weird because I know a lot of people have praised the audio mix of it. It's always been
I've
praised
heard
for having a really good audio
people
mix.
have really praised 2049. I haven't heard anyone praise the audio for the original. A lot of people say that the audio mix on the first one's really bad, but
I do think it is quite old. I do think because it is an older film now. It is from the.
Normally, people fix them up and try to make them better for modern speakers. I say modern speaker. Try for digital. Try digitally altered them so that they sound cleaner. But this is just either really loud or really quiet. But the film itself really good. I liked the identity crisis with the villain. His like revolution at the end, very intellectually stimulating, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but I think my favorite thing about that film is the conflict of humans have become less human than even the fake humans.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I thought it was very intellectually stimulating by its revolution of how humans might as well just be machines with the way that they function, paperwork and law. And then he's then you got the cyborg who's like, fuck law, fuck paperwork. I'm just gonna be free. I'm gonna take my shirt off and I'm gonna scream in the rain. I don't give a flying shit. I thought it was great. I just had a oh my god, that's literally me moment.
Literally me. That Blade Runner was the original literally me.
Yeah, but okay, so
yeah.
So what are you challenging me with this? How long are we going to time this for?
Whenever we next meet.
Whenever we next do our stream. Okay, then.
Podcast, yeah.
So, what is your challenge for me?
See, I've got a few ideas, but I was thinking, well, I think because our original idea was I was going to meet you to watch this film so you could watch it for the first time, but I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to get that. So I'm going to challenge you to try and, if you can access it, I don't mind even getting you a copy, to watch the first Miyazaki movie, my favorite film of all time, The Castle of Cagliostro. My absolute favorite film of all time.
The Lupin one.
I want you to watch it. I want to hear your opinion on it.
I do want to watch it, but do you know what's stopping me watching it? I have a friend who won't shut up about it.
His name kind of rhymes with mine.
Kind of rhymes with you. Funny enough, it rhymes and it has the same letters.
But yeah.
I'm just having a look through my anime list quickly, because I want to recommend you an anime. You've seen Akira, right?
Yes, I like it.
You have seen Akira.
Very good.
I want to recommend to you. Okay, give me a genre that you would fancy watching.
Oh, I'm always up for sci-fi anime because I haven't watched too many. I've seen obviously Kyoto Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, and they always seem to be great.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a choice. You have one or two shows to watch.
Oh man, he's giving me a choice.
I'm giving you a choice. You can watch either Cyberpunk Edge Runners, yeah,
or Arcane.
Or Arcane. My recommendation for the one that you would prefer would be Arcane. Because it is literally like a mixture of cyberpunk and fantasy. Cyberpunk Edge Runners, I think you would love. But I feel that the difference between Arcane and Edge Runners is that Arcane has lasting power. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is a very good show, but I don't think it has the staying power Arcane does. Arcane is something people could be watching in 20 years' time and go, yeah, this was a fucking good show. Like they do with Avatar: Last Airbender. Cyberpunk Edge Runners will be popular for about 2 years, and then people will forget it exists.
How many episodes is that to Arcane?
Arcane.
Mm-hmm.
Arcane is 9 episodes. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is 10. Now,
not because it's less, but I just didn't know how long they were. I was just curious.
The difference is that Edge Runners episodes are 25 minutes long. Arcane has 40-minute long episodes.
Doesn't mind. I think I'll give Arcane a try.
I think
I've
you
been
would
meaning to watch
prefer
it
it
for a year.
I think you would definitely
need to watch
prefer
it for
it
the entire year. Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it for the entire year, so I do think I'll give that.
The great thing about it is that you don't need to know anything about League of Legends to understand Arcane. They literally rewrote a lot of the lore so that this could stand on its own without the video games. It's literally designed for people who like. I didn't play League of Legends till after I watched Arcane, and League of Legends ain't that great. The series though is fucking fantastic. Okay.
Then.
And I don't think I'll ever play the game League of Legends again because it's dog shit, and the people who play it are really, really not nice half the time. I'd like to be able to just play it and just have a chill time, but instead I got people calling me words that I will never repeat because they're so angry all the time playing. But the TV show Arcane is so fantastic. It's so deep, very intellectually stimulating. I know you like visual storytelling a lot, and it's there in spades.
Alrighty then. So I watch Arcane. You watch The Castle of Cagliostro. I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, right?
It used to be. You have to probably get it on iTunes. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime, but you have to pay for it, or it's on. Apple.
Can I buy it physically, or is it not available physically anymore?
Okay, there's two. You can buy it physically, but there's the UK Blu-ray, which isn't a very good encode and transfer, but it's still better than nothing. Or you. Can
I want to collect the Ghibli films anyway. I've got a few of them on Blu-ray and DVD.
I say the Blu-ray is fine. The Blu-ray is fine enough.
Yep.
The British Blu-ray is fine enough. You can get the American one, but it's more expensive.
Only got
So the
two.
British one.
I've only got two Ghibli films on Blu-ray because I only actually like two enough to buy them on Blu-ray. The other ones I just got on DVD.
I mean, I love Grave of the Fireflies, Princess Mononoke. I need to watch I've got not Ponyo, sorry. I've got Porco Rosso to watch. I've also got Nausicaa to watch. I'm looking forward to watching them. I've got them on Blu-ray too.
My two favorite Ghibli films are Princess Mononoke and Kiki's Delivery Service.
I need to watch Kiki.
It's literally just a witch in training, and she just goes to a town and it's literally just a girl learning to become a witch. It's great. It's without a magic school, so there's no Hogwarts. It's like set in France. I think France as well. It's like a European country, like Western European.
Righty.
It's really good. But yeah, my recommendation, my choices for you are Cyberpunk or Arcane, and yours for me is Lupin. So awesome.
Yeah. So I think this is where we end. Thank you everyone for listening to us ramble and talk about probably pointless stuff that maybe you turned off after 5 minutes. But I would hope to think that people listened. We'll get better as this goes. We're just kind of getting back into things. We've both been kind of ill and away and distracted by things. But hopefully this will be more common.
Before we wrap up, I want to say, I am going to get the Steam Deck. Very soon. I'm gonna place my order next month, and hopefully it'll arrive early December. And I really, what I want to do when I get it is spend about an episode talking about, well, not an episode, but like it's part of an episode talking about what gaming on it is like compared to playing on another console or PC, because I'm interested to see how it differs. And also, like,
I can't wait to hear your opinion on it, because I was thinking the game one myself, but I'd rather wait for an actual opinion from someone like really trust, because obviously with every piece of technology, there's always conflicting. My
takeaway before I have it is that this is not a system for people who just want to buy a system like a Nintendo Switch, download your game and go. This is a system that you're going to have to do a lot of troubleshooting with, and not everyone wants to do that. This is like the console for PC enthusiasts. That's how I see it. Like, you don't have to be a major PC enthusiast. You don't know how I wouldn't say this is for someone who knows how to build a PC, but this is for someone who knows how to fix software that isn't running properly or won't run at all. It's to that level, and that's not a very high level, but it's a barrier for a lot of people for entry. So I'm
looking forward to you working out and letting me know and letting our audience know like your perspective. I think that'd be interesting.
Even though
you could probably do a video about it. If you did a review on
even
it.
though my YouTube channel Yeliab is not a gaming channel, I do think that every now and then I'll throw something out of the ordinary in, and I like to do videos based on like anime video games and on consoles. So like, anime video games on the PS2, anime video games on the Nintendo Switch, and I could do one on anime video games on the Steam Deck. See how that goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. You should review it. I think you should review it. I think that'd be kind of cool if you did a big review on it. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think I may do. We'll see. One thing I'm looking forward to doing on it is emulation, though. A bit, because I want to get an emulator that will let me play at least PS2 games on the go, and majority of them can't do it over PS1, but this one can do PS3. So, there's that.
I'm looking forward. You should try emulate. You can emulate PS3 games. Can now somewhat. I'd be kind of.
You can emulate
how
PS3.
It does with each console.
I mean, I emulate PS3 games on my computer all the time. My computer can handle it. It's not something everyone's computer can do, but I think yours will be able to do it if yours is as close spec to mine as you say it is. Yours should be able to do it. But yeah, I haven't had. PS3 emulation is the one I've had the least problems with, funnily enough. The game either works or it doesn't. With other software, I find that you have to find workarounds to get the games to work.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that review. I think you should. Well, if you do it, I think you should. I think it'd be kind of cool. Maybe we'll discuss in private some maybe things I'd like to see, but I'm not trying to point you towards
Well,
like
I
what
mean,
you should do.
you could
Like
ask me to
what
try
I'm
and do
interested in.
something, and I can look into it, see how I see
Well,
how it.
I think we can leave it to the comment. If people are interested, maybe leave a comment below. Not that it's going to persuade you, but just like if they're interested, it's like well, maybe leave a comment below.
Yeah,
What is
I
it?
think the Steam Deck's going to be a great system. But I feel like it's still in its infancy, and I'm going to install Windows on it, and I'm going to use Windows on it almost exclusively. So, I so yeah, but I'm not going to use the Steam OS that much. I understand. I know there are some like bottlenecks with. I know you get not as good of a performance out of games on Steam Deck in Windows mode, but the games will play still, so that's fine by me.
Alrighty then.
And also, I get to play Genshin Impact on it in Windows mode. So
Not Genshin Impact. I'm joking.
I am literally working on a Genshin Impact video, and I'm very happy with what I've got for it so far.
Oh my god, Genshin Impact. I'm joking. I played a bit of it. It's alright.
Oh,
It's
really?
pretty fun.
Really?
A little bit, just a little bit.
It's like if Breath of the Wild was actually good.
I mean, you trigger me in a moment. You put a footage of me being triggered right now. Anyway,
Do you know why? Do you know why Breath of the Wild wasn't good? Because you
Why?
can't. Because in Genshin Impact you can play as waifus.
You can make Link a waifu.
Oh wait! Don't you mean Zelda? Isn't it called Legend of Zelda? You know, the guy you play Zelda.
Literally. Anyway. I need to get going. This has been a long episode, but it's been very fun. It's we're gonna try and be a bit more structured, a bit more organized. It's just that both been ill, both been very busy, but things are kind of calming down.
Calming down.
We'll figure it out.
It's all good.
It's all good, man. Anyway, this has been the Hub. We hope you have a good evening, good day, and good night. Which is kind of copyright, I guess. I'm stealing from a BBC show. I can't remember that. Someone there. But hope to see you all the next time.